Feeling the need for change is at the heart of your ability to make it happen. Welcome to Turning Inward. I'm Vivian Carrasco, your midwife, teacher, and host for this podcast. Together, you and I are going to navigate the interior life. And we're going to do that by unearthing our personal truths, our own insight, and our inner knowing. These are weekly teachings that are brought to you by hard-nosed scientific evidence focused on spiritual direction with integrity and self-awareness. In 2 words, this is your inner work. So tell me about your turning inward and what that looked and felt like for you.
Well, I started off thinking how to have this conversation, but I think the best way is just to share. I was raised in the Mormon church, and I married quite young in the church. I was 18 years old and married officially as a Mormon in the temple as they do. I was about 2 years into the marriage that I really just started to come alive and be who I was meant to be as an adult and woman, and just all different facets. And unfortunately, my husband at the time just did not want to grow with me, and I cared about him, but I just knew that we weren't going to be a lifelong couple. And it seemed so obvious to me, but to him, it wasn't as obvious. And it was a hard process to go through. But in the process, as I navigated the territory of A, getting divorced, and B, within the Mormon church, I found that there was a lot of, I really was not supported. And in fact, I was threatened, not with my health or safety, but when you grow up in a religious organization and they start telling you things about your worth and your future and what might happen to you if you make certain choices, it might as well be a threat to your personal safety or whatever, because it's so scary to think, wow, how can I make these decisions on my own when I've been relying on this religion or this belief system to support me and give me all the answers I've thought I needed over the course of my life? How am I going to move forward without it and make my own proper decisions? So it was a really tough time, but when we talk about going inward, there was something inside me that I just could not deny. And I knew I needed to move on, and not only from the marriage, but into whatever else the world had to offer me as far as learning who I was. And I had learned everything I need to learn. I do want to say I don't have any ill will towards the Mormon faith, or, I have many, many family members, including my brother, that are active Mormons. We all get along and we're all in good standing with each other, but it was just time to move on. And for me personally, I just couldn't deny it. I couldn't deny that feeling that in order for me to grow and be who the person I needed to be on this earth, I needed to move on. And so that's kind of how I came to that. It came from inside. It's just, I'm sure you hear it all the time. People have a hard time describing it and putting it into words, what that feeling is like when there's something that calls to you. And
yeah, there's not language for it almost. Like our words don't describe it. But when we feel it, for some, it's a gnawing. For everyone, it's different. So this is probably a great opportunity to say, it's going to keep coming back. If you think that feeling is speaking to you without words, probably is, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Now, I read a little bit about you and your work, and you mentioned something about spiritual disease that really piqued my curiosity. Can you say a little bit more about that?
I don't know if somebody else coined that term or where it came from. I'm certainly not laying claim to it, but last year, as I ironically was going through my coach training, we were in the 4th course, or out of 5 courses, we were in the 4th course. The course was called Process, and it really just goes in deep into kind of where we are emotionally with the experiences that we've had in life, and really, in particular, the things that kind of have us held up in life. So we all had to kind of talk about the things that we could not be with. So it was really a powerful experience because all 20 of us in the room, we had to share what we couldn't be with. And it wasn't things like terrible things like kids not living, kids dying, or something terrible car accident, or kids with terminal illness, or something to that effect. It was like we had to go deep. We had to really say what our truth was. And mine was, well, people that have really strict religious beliefs, and they're like, no, that's not it, because that's not true. You can be with anybody. You have a full range of ability to be with people no matter what their beliefs are. What else is it? So as we dug deeper, it was just really this idea that my life is less, or my life is not on target, or my life is amiss because I'm not believing what you think I should believe. And I think that that's a disease. I think that's a sickness that we're all suffering from. I'm not perfect. I have my own belief systems too. But when we really force our own beliefs on other people and make them feel bad because they don't want to believe that, or they choose something different, I don't know what else other way to describe it than a disease. And it's invasive. It can cause so much harm. And I can't imagine what my life would have been like if I would have stayed in that marriage and lived a life that was a lie. What kind of mother I would have been, or what kind of wife I would have continued to be, and how I would have internalized that. I know it would have been like a disease. It would have eaten me from the inside out. I know it would have been one of those scenarios of just toxic, completely toxic.
When I imagine the metaphors coming up for me, and it's almost like sometimes you see grass or flowers or even weeds sort of breaking through the cement. And you can imagine the type of will and force that it took for it to grow through that, where if you imagined its experience in a fertile, soft soil, what deep its roots could go and how big it could bloom. And it feels like you're describing something a little bit like that.
Absolutely. And it took time. It took a lot of time and effort. And
so glad you said that. And not only to reaffirm me, but, and I have conversations with individuals and they say, I'm ready to move forward. And it's been a week or it's been a month. Yeah, you're laughing because, I have not heard of anyone that has had a process like this transformation, this transformational death and rebirth that hasn't gone into years. I think mine was 7 years. What if you looked at it from the beginning of that inkling when you said to yourself, I just can't deny this anymore, to feeling like you were sort of on the other side of that cloud? How much time was that for you?
Well, I was really young, so I think I made pretty good time just because I was young and I really was able to move on. I didn't have it was just me. I had me full on that I could work on without having to be responsible for other things and other people and type of thing. So with that said, I would say it was probably at least a good 4 or 5 years. Because what I would do is I would say, oh, I'm fine. Like, I guess I felt like maybe kind of paid my dues. Mm-hmm. And then I'd have a setback, like a relationship didn't work out or whatever. And it would really set me back. And I'd kind of have to go through all the motions again of who I was, why I did what I did, and kind of reboot myself. And then I would be fine. But yeah, it took some time. It's still there at times because it's who I am. Mm-hmm. It's who I am at the core.
That's such a good point, Susan. I had that conversation earlier today, and it was, I've worked through this, but now I'm working through it at another level. So it's almost like if you imagine one of my favorite symbols is a conch shell, and this spiraling outward. And so we're coming from the same core, we're spiraling in the same direction, but higher.
That's powerful. That gave me goosebumps. It's so true.
Yeah, because I would agree with you. I am the same person, and the issues that I dealt with 7 years ago, I'm still dealing with them. They're just not tornadoes. They're more of a slight wind.
Yes. And
there's no chaos. There's no carnage and chaos left in my wake. There's just maybe a mood or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're our teacher, and any good teacher that we want in our lives will hopefully be there forever, for a long time, because that's why we're here, is to learn. And these experiences are our teachers. And when we can look at it that way, like, there's something more for me to learn here. There's something more to revisit that will benefit me. And I know, I'm sure you feel as I do, that this experience benefited me. Absolutely. It was not a detriment to my life and who I am as a person. It made me who I am, and it made life more rich and fulfilling for sure. The trials and the hardship.
I would agree with you. I wouldn't want to revisit it.
No, and I think that's perfectly, yeah.
But it did make me so much better and so much fuller. And I don't believe that people are broken, but it just, I don't know, it's almost if I imagined a posture that I had before was sort of leaned in, arms crossed, head down. And I just sort of, now my shoulders are back, my chin is lifted. And it's just a different way that I experience the entire world.
Yeah. The aha for me with the spiritual disease too was, and that's what I feel so strongly about, is continued learning, is I really had to look within myself to see how I was having beliefs that were limiting other people. It had nothing to do truly with the initial cause of this experience was for me, but the huge amount of learning there was there for me to just to take in was huge, because, honestly, I was having some of those same thoughts about people. Of course, I justified it in my own little way, but I needed to become more aware of what I was thinking about people and how I was limiting myself by how I was limiting myself in that way. And it's just that full awareness. It's not the actual experience. It's the awareness that it wants to bring to us about all facets of our lives and who we are and who we're trying to become.
Our life speaks to us.
Mm-hmm.
So a really practical example that I use, because it might seem silly to some, but because of the way I was raised, it was a very transformational experience for me when I was able to admit that I did not enjoy cooking.
I get it.
Outside, it just seems so silly. Like, really? That was hard? Yes, it was so much a part of my DNA and how I was raised and what I revered and the women that I loved, and it wasn't inside of me. And you're exactly right. I gave myself that belief and I had to work my way through it. I heard someone say once that once you have a driver's license, you have to let go of anyone else giving you something and you take ownership for it. And it sounds like that's the experience you're describing.
Absolutely.
So turning inward, you couldn't deny it anymore. And then what happened? Like, what are some of the phases or some of the ahas as you went through that process that you can describe for someone who feels like they're about to go on this journey?
Well, I will say that as I was going through this transformation, I had very little support within my circle. My family loved me and they weren't judgmental, but they didn't support me at the same time. And I felt sort of like an alien. All my friends were they were all young marrieds and they were all Mormon. And again, didn't have support there either. I felt really alone. The best part of it was that I had people come into my life seemingly out of nowhere that gave me such love and acceptance and support. And I'm telling you, and I was looking for it because I knew I needed it. And I think that was part of why I was able to notice this in my life. And it was like from the shoe person at the department store, that I was buying shoes from. It was people at the grocery store. It was somebody at work that was in town for a couple of days for a meeting that I had a nice conversation with, or very random, very out of nowhere, but just so much in life wanted to just comfort me and help me feel okay. And there were so many signs. I could go on and on, literally, about how I felt people would just show up, or experiences would just show up in my life to show me I'm okay, I was valuable, I was loved, and that I was going to be okay. We really have to allow ourselves to look up a little bit. We're looking down and we're upset and we're worried and things feel hopeless. But if we allow ourselves to kind of look up and just notice what's going on around us, who's around us, people, just simply eye contact with people. Mm-hmm. There's a lot out there that wants to support us. So I think that was one of the biggest experiences of my life, that just the awareness that the universe, the people that inhabit this universe really, truly, ultimately wanted me to feel loved and feel like I was going to be okay and that everything was A-okay, really, even though it didn't feel that way at the time. I guess that's kind of how I took it, just really wanting to show me that there was more going on and I was on the right path. Kind of little hints here and there that I was okay. I needed that because I was worried that I was not okay. I was worried I was going to burn in hell at various times. I was worried that I was going to be a terrible person for doing this, and that I was going to destroy any shred of happiness I might possibly have in the future. I was told that to my face. I was scared. I was a scared, worried person, and I needed that support, and I just needed that love. I don't know a better way to describe it, but just simple love, easy love that just came into my life. I have no idea who half of those people were. I don't stay in contact with them. It was very random. I had one woman give me the book. The most life-changing probably highlight of that was a woman gave me the book, The Prophet. I'm sure you're familiar with that book, but she just came into my life for just about a couple weeks at a time, and we shared our experiences. She showed me that book, and then the next thing you know, I think she had moved across country or something, and we just kind of lost touch because this was over, 20 years ago, so things were different. So I was keeping in touch, and that book changed my life because it was spiritual, and I didn't know how to access spirituality because I had been shown how to do that for so long, and I didn't know how to access it on my own. And she shared that book with me, and it just changed my life. It just was so simple and so deep all at the same time. And it was amazing that I had her come into my life at the time that she did. And I guess that's what I'd want to share with people is if you really truly know you're living your truth and you're doing what you need to be doing in service to your experience here on earth and what you want to learn and gain, there really are people that out there that want you to succeed and that want to help you. And just look, you just have to notice it. And you just have to slightly turn your gaze a little and look up and notice it because they're there.
And that gave me chills because this shift in focus, it said conversations that I have verbalized in 10,000 different ways. And what you said that I recall is you stopped looking down at what you were worried about and what you were leaving behind, perhaps, and you started to look up and ahead at what you wanted to create. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I did. It's important to get outside of the pain or outside of the worry, and just even for a moment at a time, and just do whatever you can to not think about it or just change the focus, journal, whatever it is you need to do to get yourself kind of out of that frame of mind, and something will come in and give you a little nudge. 9 times out of 10, there's always a little something there willing and wanting to do that for you. You do have to change you can't be thinking, oh, woe is me, this is terrible, you can have those moments and that's okay, but you have to move past those and look up and see what else is going on while you're doing that.
Yeah, and you said slightly turn your head. These aren't big movements. They're just tiny efforts, tiny steps. Nothing more than what you think you can handle at a time.
Again, I don't know these people. They didn't do the work. I still had to do the work. I still had to press forward. But it was just kind of like just feeling that wave of reassurance and peace wash over me. It was allowing those moments to happen so that I could keep pressing forward. It's a marathon. It's like a water station at mile 21 or whatever. It's like
27 was the one that almost doubled me over. But
it's like, that's what it is. You still have to run that race. You still have to get back up and keep going. But yeah, they're there. Those moments are there. Absolutely.
Well, you also mentioned, Susan, you said accessing your spirituality and how you found it to be so simple. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, it's just that overall acceptance. For me personally, growing up, it was like I just had to do so much to feel like I was going to be okay or be blessed or be in good graces so that I would discern what was out there and what I needed to know and what I needed to be doing with my life. And it was complicated. It just seemed complicated. There were a lot of steps, a lot of policies and procedures, if you will. So when I didn't have it in my life anymore, it was a little scary at first because it was like, how am I going to earn this acceptance or this guidance that I know I need right now? And it just was a point in my life where I got to, it's like, wait a minute, it's just there. And of course, these moments taught me that, these signs and these little nudges that we just speaking of. But it was just like, oh, it's just there. It's not jumping through hoops. I don't want to offend anyone. I just felt like I had so much required of me in order to receive. And that was the impression it made on me. I don't know that every person in that religion feels that way, but that was the impression it had made on me. I was not worthy, and I wasn't going to get the pipeline. The connection was not going to be made unless I did what I was taught I was supposed to do. So all of a sudden not having to do all those things and just feeling it on its own was just so impactful for me. Just, I was enough, as we hear so much lately. I am enough. We are enough today, right now, in this moment. We're enough. And it was such an eye-opening experience to just know there's good out there in the world that wants only the best for me. And it's not based off of me doing A, B, and C. It's already there.
What are some of the practices that you personally have in your life where you access your spirituality, where you connect, where you sort of find that well that helps you discern?
I definitely meditate. I meditate 1 to 2 times a day. I've done that for the past, off and on for the past 10 years. I've done it really actively over the last 8 or 10 months. I was taught the certain form of meditation, and so it really helped me to kind of take the practice into my heart even more so and do it every day. And I've always done it in certain ways, but this just having a practice in place every day at a certain time, I think, is personal ritual. And I think any of those types of personal rituals that speak to us are important. So the meditation, being in nature, and then one of the biggest, most profound ways I've tapped into my spirituality is helping other people and giving service to those in need and sharing that space with those that are suffering or scared. Or I've done it in different ways. I've volunteered at hospitals. I've volunteered at crisis nurseries for kids. I've helped teens at risk. I did a play group for moms that were struggling. They didn't have full custody of their kids, or they were trying to get full custody back of their kids, and they needed kind of a safe space to take their kiddos to play, and created a program for that. Just being with people that need your help. And I'm not talking about money and donations. That's really helpful too. But I think just sharing your spirit with those that are in need is one of the most impactful ways to get in touch with your spirituality. That's what's worked for me every time. And it's always there. There's always an opportunity.
You don't have to go far. I think it's Mother Teresa who said you have a Calcutta within your arm's reach.
Yes.
You don't have to go anywhere. What meditation practice?
I do transcendental meditation, TM, I think most people call it. But yeah, that's what I do. It really helped me to just formalize and I don't want to say accountability, but it just got me in the practice. I just needed something to get me in the everyday practice. I tried to do it on my own, and I kind of would feel like I'd be good, and I did it for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I wouldn't do it, and 6 months would go by or whatever. And the things that it taught me were really impactful too, just about what meditation's for, what it does to our bodies, and how much it affects our health, the better. And it should be simple. It should be fun, blissful, easy. It's not like this, oh, I got to meditate and I can't have these thoughts. So it was really, I had done that to myself a few times. Like, I tried to sit down and meditate, and I just would be like, okay, mind's wandering. Oh, this is a fail. And I learned from TM, it's like, no, that's not a fail. There's no bad or good meditation. It's just, if you sit for 20 minutes with your eyes closed, that is a good meditation. And some are more impactful, and some you have a deeper experience than others, that's for sure. But every meditation is a good meditation as long as we're doing it. So that's one of the most beneficial things that taught me.
And a lot of people that haven't experienced meditation, I'm going to say a lot of people, but I find that folks that talk to me about it are hesitant because they don't know what it is. And there are thousands of meditative practices that can be done. Walking can be done in a meditative state. And I just wanted to say that. I mean, it's sort of like the exercise craze. Like some people like leg warmers, some like step aerobics. It's all exercise. And it's the same with meditation. Yeah.
And you have to kind of make it your own. I think even though I was taught this specific way of doing it, I have since made it my own, and I personalized it for me. My TM is not the same as the next person's TM. I can guarantee you that. And that's the same with every meditation practice. You have to make it your own. and not worry. There's really no rules, honestly. That's the biggest thing I've taken away from this learning. And it's not just with TM, it's all types of meditation. It's like there really aren't any rules. And I think beforehand, I thought there was these rules, like you couldn't think, or you just had to focus on one thing, and you just was not fun, not enjoyable. But it should be fun. It should be enjoyable. And I think people have, like you said, they do have a concern that it's not going to be fun and it's not going to be enjoyable just to sit. It seems like you're just sitting and wasting time or whatever, but there's so many great resources out there. I highly recommend finding whatever it is that works for you. It'll come to you, and just put the research out there and see what you find. But it's just so beneficial.
I agree. I've heard that you can even age backwards. Like one of the scientific studies has shown that. So there's a plethora of stuff out there. Now, Susan, we're coming to the end of our time, and I'd like for you to share with us how we can find out more about you.
Oh, thank you so much. This went so fast. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, and I do have a website, and they're all under my name, Susan Mobley. On Instagram, I'm just Susan_Mobley, and Facebook, Susan Mobley, and my website is susanmobley.com. So I look forward to hearing from anybody that would like to learn more about me or my experiences, or share their own experiences. It's always a fun and meaningful experience for me, too.
And it's Mobley.
Yes, Mobley.
And if you had one final thought to share as your sort of jewel of wisdom, what would it be?
Live your life from the inside out. Mm-hmm. Take out that middleman or middle woman or middle object or organization, and know in your heart that you have the answers you need for your life. That's how you were created, and that's how you're set up to live your life if you so choose.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you, Vivian.
If you want more help moving forward and breaking out of a negative mental pattern, I personally host an online community of practice for smart, successful women and a few super cool dudes that gives you more support, tailored training, and an unlimited professional coaching. Visit my digital home at viviancarrasco.com to learn more.